What up, guys? Welcome to the Son of Wonder. The first official trailer for Venom: The Last Dance has arrived, so let's conversationalize. Alright, guys, so Venom: The Last Dance has its first trailer, which was released this past Monday. It's going to be the third and final Venom film. Officially, it's going to be the last one, and it's going to come out October 25th. So, I'm going to give my extended thoughts on what I think about the trailer and kind of what I think about the Venom franchise, I guess, overall. So this is, kind of part of Sony's whole strategy of, hey, let's take Spider-Man side characters and make their own movies about them. And largely that has not worked in Sony's favor, as everybody who's in the movie space pretty much knows. But of the franchises, the Venom franchise has by far succeeded the most. So it's going to be still by far the most lucrative. We also have Kraven the Hunter coming out later this year as part of that same kind of side character movie thing they've got going on, and it's going to be rated R, very dark, and also probably bomb at the box office, if Morbius and Madam Web are any indication. But when it comes to Venom: The Last Dance and the trailer that they released for it, just be warned, I guess I'll be getting into spoilers for the trailer. If you still want to watch the trailer, I'll be getting into details presented in the trailer. Obviously not spoilers for the film, because I have not seen it yet. But, moving on, the trailer basically, I think it does a good job of not giving away the entire plot, but giving you a good general idea of what the movie is going to look like. I think I'll just talk about what I liked about the trailer and what I didn't like about the trailer kind of separately. So I'm going to start off what I didn't like about the trailer. What I didn't like about the trailer, honestly, is it could be quantified in more like a sense of just what I don't like about the Venom franchise in general. There's really nothing specifically in the trailer that they haven't done in the previous Venom films that bothered me more so. When you're getting into the Venom franchise, I literally just saw Venom: Let There Be Carnage. I hadn't seen that movie previously. I had only seen the first Venom movie. And as far as my thoughts on the first Venom movie, I just wasn't overly impressed. In general, I do not like the concept of taking Venom, who was a villain when he started out in the comics, a full-fledged, full-force villain, and turning him into an anti-hero. And I've thought about making a dedicated video talking about why I don't like the fact that they keep changing different villains and making them anti-heroes, but I'll get into that in that video if I do it. When it comes to Venom, though, because I don't like when villains are changing to anti-heroes, I don't like it in this case either. Venom, especially as presented in the Spider-Man, the different Spider-Man cartoons, different Spider-Man comics. Yes, Spider-Man and Venom have teamed up before, and yes, Venom was turned into an anti-hero. Still, nonetheless, his origins are in villainy. Very hardcore villainy. He is supposed to be the antithesis of Spider-Man. He is supposed to represent all of the evil and all of the things Spider-Man could have done if he turned evil. At least that's how I interpret the Venom character, is Spider-Man's origin story is almost that of a villain's in the fact that it has a lot of trauma, it has a lot of depression, it has a lot of just this sense that the whole world is against Peter Parker in his early days. And, he uses all of that and then chooses the good path, chooses the path of responsibility. I see Venom as sort of like what Spider-Man would become if he turned into a bad guy. So the very idea of taking Venom and then making him a lethal protector, somehow protecting others despite the fact that he is evil, doesn't make sense. The whole purpose of a villain is to not be good, because there's a good guy who fights the bad guy, the villain. And so it ruins the concept of the villain if you just have them stay mildly, protective of innocent people, when if they're the bad guy, they're not really supposed to be. And I get, the whole nuance thing. You can, do different stuff with it. You can make the bad guy go temporarily good and, team up with the hero. That can be interesting. But when you take them and make them, official, okay, they're kind of a good guy now, sort of, it just complicates it too much, and it goes against the origins of the actual character most of the time. So they did go anti-hero with this Venom franchise in the movies. They went that route. And on top of that, If you have seen Venom in any other medium, comics, video games, cartoons, he has never been a frat boy. Truthfully, my knowledge of Venom is largely gathered from the cartoons that I've watched, and I have seen all of the Spider-Man cartoons. And those cartoons pull a large amount of stuff from the comics. But again, if you have seen Venom in any other medium, he will have not been a frat boy. He will have not been like this goofy, strange, like insecure almost, like just weirdo. Venom is like this menacing, evil creature who feeds off the negative emotions of the people he takes over. And he like his bread and butter is bad. His bread and butter is being the bad boy. That is Venom. And in the movies, because for some reason there seems to be this belief that, like now especially and in recent times, I would say ever since Thor Ragnarok came out, at least that's when I think it largely started, that comic book movies, if they're comic book movies, have to be funny. They have to be comedic in some way. There has to be a comedy element to all of them. And that is just simply not true, especially when you look at some of the earlier comic book movies. Yes, there were moments of levity, but there was also, like, they were largely serious. Like, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies have moments of humor, not comedies, not even close to comedies. They're dramas, at least I would say, superhero dramas. But ever since, like, I feel like the MCU was largely responsible for kind of like taking the comic book movie idea and being like, okay, well, this is going to appeal to more people if it's like really funny. So I guess since that's like, they seem to believe that, they decided to go the same route with Venom as a character, and it just does not fit. Like in Let There Be Carnage, he's hanging out with chickens and going to like weird clubs, and like I don't even know, it's just strange, and like the tone does not fit right. If you know anything about Venom from his the comic origins or the cartoons or anything like that, that is not how he is. And it's extra disappointing because Tom Hardy is really good at being menacing, and yet they chose like the more goofy route to take his character. Speaking of Tom Hardy, however, I am 110% convinced that the redeeming factor, the redeeming quality of the first two Venom movies and what could very possibly be this new one is Tom Hardy. It's Tom Hardy. If it was any other actor than Tom Hardy portraying this character, it would not be good at all. But it is him, so it is mildly good. It's his acting ability, it's his ability to act like he's talking to this other personality, Venom, who isn't actually there, and convincing you that they are in fact two different people, Eddie and Venom are, even though it's still him doing Venom's voice and being playing the character of Venom as well. He does such a good job of convincing you of that it adds this sense of believability that if it wasn't there, the movies would just be completely ruined. And also there are moments where he adds the gravitas necessary to make the movies, again, mildly effective, I would say, effective as films. The first Venom movie is just kind of interesting by default because it is the first time you're seeing this specific interpretation of Venom, Tom Hardy's portrayal, the origin story, seeing how this new version of the Venom creature, the symbiote, like this new version of the character is like. It's kind of just interesting by default in that regard. The second Venom movie, Let There Be Carnage, just leans into the goofiness and the wackiness, I think too much, but nonetheless it still offers some, I mean, like, I could still laugh at the jokes. Even if I don't like the fact that that's the direction they took the Venom character, I still laugh at the jokes. And I think that Let There Be Carnage, even though it is extremely flawed, is still enjoyable enough to watch because it's, as a kid, I know I would have loved seeing Venom and Carnage just duke it out, like beating the mess out of each other. Especially with the quality of CGI. That's another thing, is the CGI is really good in this franchise. And so now I'm going to move on to the things that I do enjoy about these films. and the specific trailer for Venom: The Last Dance itself. So other than, leading into the goofiness of the trailer, there's a moment where Venom dances with a woman in the trailer. There's more of the typical, Venom goofy jokes that you're gonna see. Other than that, the stuff that I already didn't like about the franchise anyway, the trailer does a good job of intriguing you. Because if there was any route that I wanted them to take, the franchise and the story, I wanted them to either go one of two. Venom fights Spider-Man, which still needs to happen. If this is the last, Venom movie where it's just Venom, the next movie related to Venom needs to be the Spider-Man one. Otherwise, it's just going to feel pointless. Because, again, taking Venom, giving him his own thing, and taking Spider-Man out of the equation, even though Spider-Man's the reason that Venom exists, and Venom's origin story is directly tied to Spider-Man as a character, they made their own thing. And so at some point you're going to need to bring in Spider-Man to really make this thing feel like it mattered in the end. And I would obviously love to see one of the interpretations of Spider-Man, whether that be Tom Holland or Andrew Garfield, I guess, since Tobey Maguire already had his Venom fight in Spider-Man 3. I would love to see Tom Hardy Venom fight Spider-Man. Everybody would love to see Tom Hardy Venom fight Spider-Man. So that would need to be the next thing. But it was either that or exploring more of Venom's home world and the other symbiotes and the symbiote origins. And the main bad guy on top of all of that, which if you don't know, in the comics, it's established that the Venom symbiote comes from an alien planet where symbiotes, all sorts of symbiotes reside, and they're all led by this one alien being called Null, the symbiote god. And he is nuts looking. I truthfully don't know that much about the whole thing other than that, but honestly, just on that information alone, I would be very intrigued to see what they would do if they explored that in a film. And my favorite part about this trailer is my favorite line is when Venom tells Eddie, my home has found us. That's actually a line that has some gravitas to it and some threat. The idea that you see all these asteroids falling, these meteors, but you could tell that that's not what they are. It's probably going to be other symbiotes hunting Venom, coming after him. And the idea of exploring what if Null shows up and it's revealed that he's hunting Venom, he's sending other symbiotes after him. And then on top of that, you have the government or some kind of military segment of the government or something. It's not really clear what specific organization it is, but they're hunting Eddie as a fugitive, who is a fugitive as was established at the end of Venom Let There Be Carnage. So you have this military part of the government or whatever hunting Eddie, and then you have the symbiote Null and all the other symbiotes seemingly hunting Venom. On top of that, you have this creature that is attacking Venom at different points in the trailer, and it's this, I don't know if it's supposed to be another symbiote kind of alien. Apparently there are creatures in the comics that might be what this thing is, but whatever it is ugly. Ugly! And I am curious for them to reveal in the movie what this thing actually is. I hope it is another symbiote, because that will mean we get to see the full force, all the symbiotes hunting Eddie. Basically, this whole film seems to be everything in the world and in another world is going to be hunting Venom. On that premise alone, I enjoy it, because it always comes down to when you're making a movie about a bad guy, who do you make the bad guy? Because naturally, a superhero, I use quotations because he's not a superhero, but a superhero movie has to have some sort of antagonist. So who do you make the antagonist if you're already making a story about the antagonist? And I feel like they've done a decent job of coming up with ideas for that. In the first Venom movie, again, spoilers if you haven't seen these movies, but in the first Venom movie, it's the symbiotes that Venom came to Earth with in the first place. After Venom forms a friendship with Eddie, I say friendship, bond of some sort with Eddie, he decides to stay and not want to destroy the planet like the other symbiotes he was with were going to do. And then in the second movie, it's obviously Carnage, with Woody Harrelson playing Cletus Cassidy, bonding to the new symbiote Carnage. And so these are threats that Venom would have to fight, even if he was still like fully bad and still wanted to hurt other people. He'd just have to protect himself. So it seems like we're continuing that trend of he's still having to defend himself from other really bad guys, even though he himself is still technically a bad guy. At least in my mind he is, or he should be. But I think at this point in the franchise, it's like if you're gonna lean into it, like lean into the goofiness and lean into the interpretation that you've chosen, you just might as well. Like, a course correction now would look weird when they already have two movies that, you know, lean hard into the wacky nature of what they've chosen and the specific anti-hero characterization of Eddie and Venom. So I think if you're just taking that, if you're just going to lean into that whole concept, then I think from what I'm seeing from this trailer makes sense, and I am excited to see it. Now, there are some questions of continuity issues in this trailer. The main one that people on the internet seem to be talking about, which I noticed as well, and it weirded me out too, is there's a moment where I can't pronounce the actor's name, but he plays Mordo in the Doctor Strange films. He's a good actor, and he's gonna be in Venom: The Last Dance, but it doesn't seem like he's gonna be Mordo. And I mean, I guess I could see like, okay, it's the Sony universe, not the MCU. He's not gonna be Mordo. I suppose I could just go with that. He's a completely different character. But the weird thing is, there's a scene in the trailer where Mordo, not Mordo, puts a container on the piece of symbiote that was left behind in what should have been the MCU in the mid-credit scene for No Way Home, for Spider-Man No Way Home. Because in Spider-Man No Way Home, there was a mid-credit scene where Eddie Brock was at this bar in Mexico, which is where he was at the end of Let There Be Carnage. And he's talking to the bartender, and then he disappears because in Spider-Man No Way Home they fixed everything, and so all of the people who were sent to the MCU from other universes are sent back to their respective universes, and Eddie was sent back to his, supposedly. But there was this piece of symbiote that was like this small piece of the Venom symbiote left behind on the bar in the MCU. But if not Mordo is containing this piece of symbiote in what should be the Sony universe, that means that the symbiote either hopped universes or not Mordo went to the MCU. But it is a very big continuity error. Like, these two things should be happening in separate universes, not the same one. Unless they're trying to say that because of all the weird multiverse mess, the Sony and MCU universe, Marvel Cinematic Universe is basically what I just said. They're trying to say that the Sony universe and the MCU are the same, which that would be dumb, because up to this point we've established that they're very separate, so they'd have to have a pretty good explanation for why that would even happen. So that's a pretty big deal. One thing I did not notice in the trailer that I only saw online was that there's a random dude that shows up in the trailer that is played by, I hope I'm saying this right, Rhys Ifans. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But this actor played Lizard in the Amazing Spider-Man movies, or in the Amazing Spider-Man 1 and then in Spider-Man No Way Home. And he seems like he's playing a completely different character. So, I'm like, honestly, at this point, I would not be surprised if, because Sony has made so many continuity mistakes already with their other films, I would not be surprised, and they can't seem to pick what continuity they want the Venom universe to be in and the Madam Web universe to be in, because apparently that's a separate thing, whole other deal there. I would not be surprised if they just flat out were this incompetent to make all of these pretty big mistakes. So, if they threw continuity out the window, it wouldn't surprise me, and it'd be like, you know, kind of the way the Fox X-Men films went in the end, toward the end of that whole franchise or whatever. So that would severely annoy me if they were that incompetent, but I don't think I would be all that surprised. But the final thing that I want to talk about concerning this trailer is, at least to me, there's some very heavy implications that, like, they're trying to say that Venom and Eddie might both die in this movie. Like, they're kind of like setting it up like that might have to happen. Like, there's even a line in the trailer where somebody says, if Venom is not destroyed, everything will end, or something like that. And so there's heavy implications that he's gonna die. What do I think about that? I think that because there's heavy implications in the trailer that he's gonna die, I think that he's not going to die. Because that's usually the case. Anytime in a trailer for a film they hint that a certain character is going to die, that character never dies. Never dies. Because usually, and when we're talking about Sony, so this would, I wouldn't be surprised. But usually, a studio is not stupid enough to hint in the trailer heavily that a certain big spoilery thing is going to happen without, like, subverting the expectations. Because then they just be telling you, hey, Venom's gonna die, and then when the movie comes out, and if, like, Venom dies, you would have been like, oh yeah, you basically said that in the trailer, so I'm not surprised at all. So usually, it's like the opposite. Whatever they hint to in the trailer, usually the opposite happens to subvert the expectations. And I think it would be really dumb if they decided to kill the Venom character, unless Tom Hardy just really doesn't want to be Venom anymore, which I don't think that would be the case. Seems like Tom Hardy has been enjoying playing this character. So I highly doubt they would kill him off, especially since Venom has been their most lucrative Spider-Man side project. I think that they're, like, making you think he's gonna die. And then again, this is just my speculation. I think they're making you think he's gonna die in the trailer. And then when the movie actually comes out, and after all the craziness happens, he'll survive. There'll definitely be some ramifications of, whatever events take place in the movie. But I think he's gonna survive, and I think somehow he's gonna end up finding a version of Spider-Man and battling him. I think they're probably gonna set that up. Which again, that's what all the fans have been wanting since they started the Venom franchise. Because Venom's character is solely dependent about Spider-Man's existence anyway. That's what all the fans have been wanting since that. So hopefully they would eventually capitalize on it. In fact, Andy Serkis, who directed Venom Let There Be Carnage, even said one time that the long-term plans, even though he's not directing this movie, the long-term plans were that Venom was going to eventually fight Spider-Man, a version of Spider-Man. We still don't know really which one. If it's a new one, that's going to be dumb, because then you'll have had to create a whole different Spider-Man continuity and whatever. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the trailer. I am excited for the movie. I like the ideas that are presented in the trailer. Like, it looks like there's also some other symbiotes in here that, like, the government military agency or whatever has captured. And it also looks like the cop from Let There Be Carnage, Patrick Mulligan, is going to come back, and he becomes Toxin, a different symbiote Toxin in the comics, which the Toxin symbiote is like the son of the Carnage symbiote, just like Carnage is the son of the Venom symbiote. It's weird comic stuff. You just have to look it up. It's all just strange symbiote weirdness. But it's very possible Mulligan could become Toxin in the movie just like he did in the comics. We'll have to see. They do hint to it, though, in the trailer. So, lots of variables going down here. I'm excited for it. Oh, and also we have a Venom horse. I forgot to mention that, but we do have a Venom horse. A Venomized horse is going to be featured in this film. Like I said, they are just doubling down now on all the Venom symbiote weirdness. So, I still think, even though in general, I don't like the base level concept, it's still entertaining. It's still fun to watch. It's not like it's lame and forgettable. It's still fun. It's just it's not staying true to what the original intention of the characters were. At least I don't think. But let me know what you guys thought about the trailer down in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. Have a very blessed day. May the Lord be with you. May the Force be with you. Goodbye. And that's a wrap.